Welcome to Tim and Julie Harris Superstar Interviews. We're joined today by Michael Kane, the General Manager of TigerLead Solutions, a lead generation solution for agents that combines high-quality home buyer and home seller lead generation with a sophisticated lead management platform. Michael has more than 15 years of technology management experience, including his former dual role as Move's Chief of Staff and TigerLead's General Manager. He joined Move in 2009 and now serves as its Senior Vice President of Move's Software as a Service businesses, now a part of News Corp. TigerLead is without a doubt one of the most well-known and trusted lead generation tools used by agents in real estate today, and Michael joins us to talk about what makes TigerLead so popular and help us understand the benefits it offers to agents. Now to your host, Tim Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Ventura. I appreciate it. And Michael, thank you for being my co-host today. I'm anxious to, I always, there's a list of folks that solicit us to be on the radio, and then there's a very, very short list of folks that we go after to be on the radio. And you guys are on that very short list, so I appreciate you setting aside the time for us today.
That's fantastic. Like to be on the list. I'm glad to be on here. I like the energy you bring to these broadcasts. Oh,
good. Thank you. Ooh, you're insinuating that you've listened before. I like that.
I have listened before, yes.
Okay, good. So what does TigerLead do so our listeners can orient to basically whether it's a fit for them? And, and I guess when we're getting into the specifics of what TigerLead does, considering we have, tens of thousands of listeners at all spectrums of their income and, real estate careers, let's kind of if we could drill down on who this is a good fit for and who maybe it's the type of the agent that you guys think it's a great fit for, and maybe the agents that want to mature their business into being a good fit for your company.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. And some of the things that we do have some technology components. So since we have a broad listener mix, we'll talk a little bit about the technology that goes into it. And I can't assume that everybody knows everything, so I don't want to talk too tech. But at the other end, I don't want to make anybody feel like I'm, condescending to them. So anyway, so what does TigerLead do? Well, I think TigerLead is a great example of using technology to help realtors solve problems, because essentially what a real estate agent wants to do is build their real estate practice. They don't want to have to mess with technology and setting things up. They just basically want the best results. So TigerLead's a perfect example of technology solving problems. It's like a solution in a box that allows the realtor to generate leads, to be able to see how serious those leads are, and then manage those leads for very, very quick follow-up and convert them into clients. It's all in one. You don't have to worry about cobbling together the individual pieces. And so it's this kind of lead generation and lead management system for the real estate professional that lets them generate leads that are smarter leads, that contain the unique insights that they need in order to focus their business most effectively. That's kind of it at the top.
What TigerLead's really, from my perspective of having a lot of my, my top earning personal coaching clients and a lot of the other coaching clients that work as part of our organization, what it is, and this is not something I say very often, it's an elegant solution. A lot of times people will have a solution, but it's inelegant, it's inefficient, it has lots of, bad code in it, or however you want to describe it. But TigerLead is an elegant solution in that it's very simple to use, and you don't have to be a technology wonk to actually get the most out of it. So that's one of the things I find it easy for me to suggest clients use you guys, because of the fact that it is an elegant solution. It is simple to use. They don't need to hire some sort of advisor to learn how to use it as some of these other companies. They just really don't know how to. Creating a product is one thing. Creating a product that people want to use is another thing. Creating a product that realtors will use, that's completely different.
Yeah.
So describe the two offerings, Home Search and Hand Raiser.
Yes. So TigerLead has the two offerings you mentioned, and in understanding the purpose and the power of the offerings, it's really helpful to understand what the intent of the people who are searching on the internet are searching for. So these are two offerings that are purpose-built in order to capture two different kinds of intent. So we'll talk about Home Search. Home Search is generally the product that finds the consumer that is early on in the transaction stage, and they're researching home ownership, or they're researching changing their home ownership. So home search gives us the opportunity to capture those people searching on the internet who are looking at properties, they're spending time, they're thinking about stuff, they're comparing properties, and they have a little bit of a longer incubation time. So what we've found is those folks, they take longer to transact, and they're generally more interactive with the system. So home search is, what we do is we will build a search-enabled website on behalf of the real estate professional. And then we spend money in search marketing to drive traffic to that search site so that consumers can browse properties that are available in the area of the consumer and the licensee. And then when they're interested in properties, they register on the site, and then that registration becomes a lead for the real estate professional. And then what happens is the system will then start incubating and cultivating and nurturing that lead, sending listing alerts, which has the consumer come back to the site and interact with the site. So they do a lot of research on the site. There's a lot of dialogue, and then they become a real educated consumer when they're about ready to transact. So that's home search. You've got, a website, you've got search, you've got a dashboard, and then you've got a cultivation method. Then the second intent that we noticed in our study of consumer behavior on the internet is those people who are looking to transact right away. And so we have the hand raiser product. And it's kind of like, by the way, everything at TigerLead has a whimsical name. So hand raiser is one of those products. It's people who are raising their hand. They're saying, I'm either looking to buy a home or to sell a home, and I want to talk to a realtor right now. So they're raising their hand saying, hey, I need to talk to somebody. I need a professional. I'm ready to transact. Those are the two products. And so you've got home search, longer incubation, and they're more interactive with the site. And then hand raiser, shorter time to close, but those people tend to be, less interactive with the site because they're ready to go now and they're ready to talk with a human being.
Makes perfect sense. So I curious, have you guys tracked the as far as like this conversation I'm sure you've been part of before. It's one of the recurring themes on our radio show. The really the quality, the validity of long-term lead follow-up, how fast a lead goes from really what's the probability of a lead that's been in a follow-up system for say 30 days, let alone 6 months, the probability of that lead actually percolating into a viable client, let alone a closed transaction. Have you guys ever done any research on that to really get some real? Obviously, there's a lot of secret sauce behind, the type of follow-up you're doing, the frequency of the follow-up you're doing, whether the agent's doing any off software follow-up themselves, calling and whatnot. But do you guys have any just like raw data on what the life cycle of a typical lead is along the guise of the question I just asked?
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if there were a simple answer because, I'll rely on the trope that says all real estate is local. So, you've got markets where things are really, really hot and you've got markets where they're not so hot. It could go, we have Tiger clients who are saying, a lead comes in, they come into town, they get an appointment right away, they show some property, and you've got an offer in a couple of days. It can be that quick. We also have on the other end of the spectrum, remember home search. It's got built-in incubation. So a user could be on that site for a long period of time, getting listing alerts, favoriting properties, maybe having a dialogue with the realtor, and sometimes they'll go dark for a little bit. One story that we have in TigerLead is somebody went dark. I remember the number is 465 days, so that's more than a year, right? So it's 100 days more than a year. And the lead had, they were on and then they were not on and they had gone dark for a little bit. And suddenly they were very, very interested and their activity picked up, which is one of the cool things about the TigerLead product is on the lead dashboard, when somebody's search activity picks up, our algorithm, which is just a fancy way of saying how we know people are hot, we'll bubble them up to the top of the list and we'll suggest to the realtor and we'll say, hey, call this person now. Either they're on the site right now or we see from their activity that they're getting really hot. So I've just given you an example, 3 days to 465, and I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle there, Tim.
Yeah, between 3 days and a typical Martian calendar year is what I think I'm hearing you say. But
exactly.
the reality of it, though, the reality of it is I'm sure that your research has shown the same thing, that really the secret sauce to all of this is furiously fast lead follow-up and getting on any lead immediately. And I bet you your best users, well, I already know it's true because I coach some of them, your best users who get the most out of TigerLeads are the ones that are basically not just putting them in the system and waiting for the system to, get them to say, hey, I'm ready to do a deal. They're also following up with the phone call. They're actually doing more than just emailing them stuff. I mean, those are and again, guys, the greatest percent of the money that's made on any kind of lead follow-up is going to be when that contact initially hits, in this case, your website or your 800 home hotline system or your email or your whatever. I mean, when they're new to you, we know statistically there's a vastly greater percent of those types of leads that actually turn into closable transactions. And I'm sure you concur with that, yeah?
Yeah, I do. And in fact, every time I hear you say furiously fast, that resonates with me so sharply. Like I always kind of jot it down and go, I've got to use that. I've got to use that. And
dude,
I guess I have to give you.
We trademarked. That's right. We'd have to charge you a royalty. Sorry.
And I'm happy to pay you royalty. But I can say, hey, you know what Tim told me? Furiously
fast
lead follow up.
Yeah. Well, that's the truth. That's the truth. Truthfully, that's really the bottom line for any kind of lead follow up. And when we do. When you guys have conferences and we have private coaching calls and we're talking to folks and you talk to the top producing agents, the agents that are, really consistently the top earners in their markets, it's always like you ask, okay, so if there's only 3 things a new agent should learn to do really well, I pretty much guarantee you that number 1 is going to be furiously fast lead follow-up. And that's something that our industry just needs to accept, that if you're serious about this business, when you get a phone call, when you get a lead, now is, the perfect time to follow up with them. Not 10 minutes, not 30 minutes. Don't convince yourself that 24 hours is okay. Now is how fast you follow up with them. So let's talk about what types of leads are generated. Explain how you guys capture the intent of the leads. So from the top of the funnel, if you will, using traditional sales speak.
Yeah, sure. So we have, we're looking to capture the 2 intents that I talk about. We're looking for somebody who's longer time to transact and they have a lot of research, and then the other people who are kind of raising their hands and they want, they want to speak to somebody. And there's a little bit of magic and secret sauce, as you were talking about, or as KFC used to call it, their secret herbs and spices. So let's get another variant in there. There's a lot of magic that goes into search on the internet, and what it really comes down to is we spend a lot of time studying what people are searching for, like literally the terms that they're looking for, and we see even subtle variations in the way they spell things or in the sequence in which they order words that can really trigger their intent. So what we do is we build up kind of a knowledge base of the keywords that signal that somebody is looking for a particular behavior. And then we use search engine marketing on the internet. As folks are searching in Google, we will bid on those search terms. And so when the search results page get displayed, we've got an ad that is sitting there on the page. And then the user goes and they see that ad and they say, wow, here is an ad that's telling me exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And let's just say it's very simple because I'm in Los Angeles right now. It's homes for sale in Los Angeles. And here's an ad that says homes for sale in Los Angeles. So they click on the ad and they find a tailor-built site for one of our licensees that's got all of the homes that they're interested in looking into. So the first thing is capturing search intent on the internet. Now, lots of folks, if they've been around this business for a while or if they've been around technology for a while, using search engine marketing on the internet is fairly well known. There's a lot of people who know how to do it, but it's constantly evolving. So the second thing that we're doing is we're looking at how consumer behavior changes. And this could be as simple as we notice different search terms that are useful for us, or it could be we also notice that consumers are behaving different. Like there is a tectonic shift in the way people behave. For example, I think that people are trending to want to be more anonymous on the internet for longer. So that has nothing to do with technology. It has nothing to do with real estate, but it's the sort of thing that we need to watch. And we say, when we were founded, 2007, 2008, however many years ago that is, when we were founded, I think consumer behavior was different. And we've been watching over the last 7 or 8 years how consumer behavior changes.
Well,
and
Michael,
we evolve.
Michael, let me jump in. So
Sure.
aside from the witchcraft and alchemy that goes into basically search, right? Because that's really what it is, and I get that. And I conceptually, from a business owner's perspective, I mean, being ahead of that, staying in front of that, it really is a full-time job. You really do have to watch the changing consumer behaviors and all the rest of it. But my listeners will lynch us, you and I both, if we don't give them some more drill-down specifics. That's what this radio show is all about. So when you're talking about changing keywords and you're talking about all this, conceptually I understand, but let's give these guys a taste of the types of, the nuances that go in to making TigerLead so successful when it comes to search.
Yeah, that's fine. And I've got a technology background, so give me an opportunity to talk about technology, and that's going to go on. Like I said, in the home search product, we capture the intent of the keywords, and then when the user comes to the site, we have got a search-enabled website, and we have a easy-to-use, friendly, complete, and always very updated set of listings, and the user is going to interact with that site. They're going to see properties that are relevant to their search. They're going to interact with more properties that are similar to that search. They have the opportunity to favorite listings so that they can keep track of the ones that they're excited about. They can come back. They receive a listing alert when new listings come online. They can come back and they can take a look at it. And it's the interaction in the site that keeps people engaged on home search. And so it's through that interaction, the consumer experience is satisfying, and then it gives insight to the real estate professional so they can then get in contact with the user and say, this is exactly the sort of thing that you're looking for. Here's more information that's going to help you in that search. So it's a combination of the search experience plus the listing alerts plus giving smarter information to the real estate professional so that they can follow up in a more targeted way. It helps them save time. So that's what makes TigerLead, kind of the most effective. You can see who's really interested and what they're interested in. On the hand raiser side, I think that the beauty of hand raiser is it's simple. We capture the intent of people on the internet, and we've got a very simple form that says, hey, I'm a buyer or I'm a seller, and I'm interested in transacting this way and in this time frame. We capture that information, goes right to the real estate professional, right into their dashboard. And in addition, in areas where it's available, we actually couple it with another Move product called Market Snapshot that allows somebody to get some valuation information. So that's kind of the two ways.
Okay. So you mentioned we're going to pivot and talk about seller leads, because TigerLeads for a long time, you guys have been really what I would say best of breed lead cultivator in essence. I mean, you guys have been really masterful early on in 2007 of basic creating in a lot of ways, and a lot of people have copied you guys, how to go about pulling leads online and then, creating very effective lead capture, and then obviously, building a very loyal list of agents that are subscribers and all that. So you guys kind of spearheaded that industry with inside real estate. I realized it was an existent outside of real estate, but there you go. So the focus now, because really, I don't know if you necessarily agree with this, but the buyer lead business, the selling of the buyer leads, if you want to just call it what it is really oversaturated. From our perspective, you don't have to agree with me. That's fine. I understand why you wouldn't. But there's so many people selling buyer leads now, and there's so few people that are effectively in the business of selling seller leads. And you guys are pivoting and doing both now. Is that going to be? Can you give us some insight into that as we go into the new year? TigerLead, seller leads. Is there any? What's the future there?
Yeah, so I got a couple of thoughts there, a little bit, kind of one after the other. I'm willing to address the proliferation of leads. In fact, when I speak, in other audiences, I always talk about lead volumes are increasing. In fact, if you take a look at the number of leads that are being created by all the portals, including the ones that we control, the growth of leads created is outpacing the number of home transactions, which, bounce around right around 5 million a year or so. So the important thing about leads is to be able to follow up quickly. Your Furious concept, which I now owe you another royalty payment on.
You just did it. Yeah.
So the quick follow-up is one of the reasons that TigerLead is excels, because you've got a dashboard, you can see immediate leads, you can do that quick follow-up. So the solution in and of itself is a way to kind of combat the growth of leads in the market. And then the second thing is, I've heard you say also in the past that every buyer lead is potentially a seller lead. So if you start asking that, the right line of dialogue where you say, you get the information about where they're interested in buying, and then you say, okay, and where do you have the property to sell, right? You can sort of suss out the sellers that are amongst the buyers. But the specific answer to your question is seller leads. I'd have to mention that, TigerLead is owned by Move, which owns Realtor.com. So we have a couple of advantages here in finding people who are looking for realtors to represent them in the selling process. Number one, just in our search and capturing search intent, because we have the ability to piggyback on the traffic of the Realtor.com domain, people who tend to look for realtors tend to fall into our capture funnel. So that affinity between our product and our parent company helps us find more of the population that could be sellers. And then we create evolving experiences to find out how serious you are as a seller. Do you just want to give contact information? Do you want to get property valuation information, which may or may not lead to like an enthusiastic seller? Or do you want to engage more deeply? And we are moving in the direction, yes, we're moving in the direction of more effectively capturing the seller intent, standing on the shoulders of everything we've built so far and our affiliation with the realtor, the trademarked realtor.
Well, so from a seller lead perspective, the sort of the gimmick that's been out there forever and probably will be out there forever is maybe the most effective way to get seller leads is offering some sort of, online, basically easy to be had home valuation, right? So
right.
That's been out there forever. It does work. There's companies, that've come and gone. That's essentially what they did. House Values and all these other companies, and those are great. And so and you mentioned this again, and I thought this again is worth repeating. My principal role in life is basically as a realtor coach, and every time I hear something and you just said something brilliant, it's worth repeating so these guys are picking it up so they can make money from it. When you get these new leads in, and it doesn't matter where the lead comes from, you have to, I don't know if you are a strong believer in this, Michael, but if you guys call them and you guys put them through a series of very simple questions when you're following up with them. And if they come through your TigerLead funnel, you could just simply call them and thank them for, basically registering for your TigerLeads and letting them know what's going to happen next. And then slip this question in. By the way, ideally, how soon do you want your home sold? Right? Mm-hmm. Just kind of out of the blue. Or if you're doing a buyer lead follow-up, say, that's a great property. Let me check to make sure it's still available. By the way, which house in the neighborhood are you thinking about selling? Because, guys, I don't think there's going to be cultivating buyer leads from a technological perspective is generally an easier thing to do than finding seller leads. So at the end of the day, as it always has been, listing agents who are knowing what questions to ask and which order to ask them are going to have the advantage. And yes, you can use an elegant solution like TigerLeads, but do yourself a favor, for God's sake. Call them and find out how many of them have houses to sell. You'll be stunned and amazed. In a market like this, we have a transitional market right now, right? We have baby boomers downsizing. We have all this, transactional velocity and volume we're going to start really seeing, especially as the Echo generation gets into the market. Guys, at the end of the day, it's the thing that keeps you from becoming ubiquitous is your ability to pick up the phone and have conversations with people. But you absolutely do need to adapt to the technologies that are out there because that's what consumers expect of you. So you're the technology guy. Did I hit it on all cylinders there? Correct me if I said anything wrong.
Yeah, I think you did. And I want to amplify something that you said. Here is what's fascinating to me because I have, the opportunity to talk with a whole bunch of clients and be at these seminars. I'm always fascinated because people really tune their responses. The questions that they ask, you even mentioned the questions that they ask in the order in which they ask them. I'm fascinated by the subtle changes in wording that people talk about. Like we have a success summit in Las Vegas. This one is in May. We have it every year. And I'm always fascinated when they get up there and they say, I used to say this in my responses, but I've noticed people are changing and now I say this. And so when you talk about sequence of questions, by the way, where do you have a property to sell? I think that is all magic. And those are the subtleties of the business, because it's not just about technology. If you combine the subtleties and the technique with the technology, you're just a winner.
Well, that's true. And it's those tiny, tiny little subtleties that make the difference, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys have studied the crap out of this too, because you'll have two users of your system, I'm sure, and they both basically get the same volume of leads, and then one is just hitting it out of the park, and the other's just kind of like they're doing good, but they're not doing like the other one was. And then you kind of get to know them both and talk with them both, and you'll realize the difference between the guy that's doing okay versus the guy that's doing exceptional, guy or gal that are doing exceptional. It's not like 1,000% more effort or it's 1,000% more skill. It's like 10% more effort and 10% more skill. The difference between good and brilliant is basically like a breath. And that's something that's, you've seen that too from your conferences. It's kind of cool to see that and recognize it though, isn't it? It feels like when you're in the midst of that, it's pretty magical, yeah?
It is, and I'll tell you what's crazy. So crazy and surprising about this job. Now, 25 years in technology. I dealt with a certain type of people. Generally very serious and technological people. As I applied the technology to real estate, I have found something amazing about this community, especially the TigerLead community. They give to our TigerLead clients, give to the community not only with their dollars, but with their time. They share this sort of expertise. You have successful clients. Not formally coaching, but saying, here are the techniques that have worked for me. Try them. They may work for you. And so what we've got is this community of Tiger clients who work together because they're not competing in the same markets. And so they're sharing techniques. And we've got some wonderful, wonderful people who are, just peppering the community with try this, try this, try this. That subtle 10% that you were talking about that really makes the difference and kind of lights the rocket.
But it's true what you're saying, but it's having hosted and attended and spoken and just, you've been involved in those events for the last 20 years. It's always the guy that's like sitting in the back of the room that doesn't raise his hand that often, that takes lots of really good notes. If you can get that guy to share his ideas, generally speaking, he's going to have stuff that's really insightful versus the people who are always rushing to raise their hand and want to share with how brilliant they are. It's interesting dynamics amongst realtors that I don't know if you see necessarily outside of our industry. So let's talk about the what you're seeing, what you can encapsulate for our listeners that you see your best of breed users. What are they doing? We're talking about the sort of 10% mysteries, what it is that is out in the ether that they're able to see that maybe others aren't. So from your perspective, what is it that extra 10% are doing that other realtors would absolutely positively benefit from doing as well?
The first thing that's always going to come, roll off my lips in that question is follow up within 5 minutes. Follow up within 5 minutes of some kind, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, a direct, conversation, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be an intrusive follow-up. It could be a simple text message to say, hey, notice that you registered on my site. I might be with a client right now. I'd like to talk to you in about 10 or 15 minutes. So I think it is quick follow-up. I think the second thing, too, has sort of two pieces to it. Be aware of the leads that come into the TigerLead dashboard where the intent is really serious. They've got activity where you can discern what they're looking for. So look for the things where you can prioritize your attention and talk to those leads first. And then the flip side of this is, but don't do that while ignoring the other ones. So you've got to have a structured approach to follow up. The people you do really, really quickly, the people you do right away, and then those folks that you just need to kind of like stay on top of. Quick follow-up, and then refine your message. See what works. Do almost, like test this versus test this and see what happens.
Right, and knowing how to really quickly discern what someone's motivation is, that really is critical, right? Being able to jump in with the right questions, it always goes back to the same thing. Do you find, I'm curious, how many of your forms, how much of your built-in software includes requesting phone numbers from the consumers, or does that come after they've actually entered into the system, where you start trying to basically, so how does that work?
Yeah, we do request phone numbers right away.
Cool.
So we want to get valid email and valid phone numbers right away, yes.
Is the phone number a required form on your forms or no? Okay,
yeah,
that's
it
awesome.
is.
Yeah, so
we also verify those phone numbers too.
Okay, Seriously, you guys do that too. So they fill out a form, you guys verify the phone numbers and then send the lead out, or you say this is a phone number, this is a form, but the phone number wasn't verified?
No, we verify the phone numbers, and then we're at the mercy of the services that we provide, right? So the service can tell us yes, it's a valid phone number, or it can tell us no, it's not a valid phone number. In which case, we know what to do. And then sometimes it's like, yeah, we just don't know. I mean, it's well formed, but there's no actual definitive answer from this. So we actually do validation on phone numbers. Yeah.
Very interesting. All right, great. So we're going to include a link to the website in the today's show's description. Are there any questions? I always like to end with this question. Are there any questions, Michael, that I should have asked you that I didn't? Anything else you'd like to say to our listeners that maybe should have come out during our interview that you think is important that we not leave on the table?
I don't think it's a question so much as I think it's a comment, and I think it's one you'll likely relate to. So even though I've talked about building a career using technology to solve problems, I always have to remember that this is a business about people. It's real folks that are making real decisions about homes that they care deeply about. So I think that if that's not in your psyche, TigerLead's not going to help you. But if that is in your psyche, I mean, you plus TigerLead, the places you'll go.
Yes, I can't think of a better way to end today's radio show. So, Michael, thank you very much for being my co-host today. I'd love to have you back. I appreciate what your company has done. I appreciate what you guys have created. And certainly a lot of the top agents that we've coached over since, really the last 7 or 8 years that have been associated with your company have nothing but, raves of reviews. I mean, you guys grew as we did. You guys grew during the depths of the recession. I mean, to build a business out of the ashes of the real estate market and to be where you guys are now is pretty incredible. And I'm very, very excited. We had Dale Stinson, the guy's CEO, of course, of National Association of Realtors, and he was talking about, now that basically News Corp is owning Move, and Move is your guys' parent company, the ramifications going forward and how that's going to benefit the real estate community, that's really exciting. It's finally like we're back. We're not on our heels anymore. We got our boxing gloves on again, and we're going to lean forward. And I think that we're going to see a resurgence of certainly the Move brand, Realtor.com, and great companies like TigerLead will only get better. So, Michael, thank you very much for being on our radio show. And listeners, we'll talk with you on the radio tomorrow.
Thanks.